Ganga. What if your 6 years old child comes to you and asks, Mommy, what is sex? Wow, what will be your answer? My name is Rukevwe Okoh and I'm a parenting coach. We are going through a 10-day series of sex education, educating your children about sex. I started yesterday, and in day one, we talked about the talk. And today we are still going to be talking about the talk. We started by saying that it doesn't have to be a difficult discussion. Don't make it sound like a bad thing to be talked about. Be relaxed when talking about sex to your children. Let them not feel that, have this feeling like we are discussing something that is bad with mommy. It makes it, sends a signal to the brain that this is a no-no discussion, or mommy is not the right person to discuss with. Tonight, we're going to be talking about another very interesting topic. What if your 6 years old child comes to ask you, what is sex? How are you going to respond? I'd love to know in the comment section. I love to know in the comment section. I want to know what your answer will be. For a 6 years old child, between the ages of, let's say, from 4 to 9, these children are very curious. They want to know everything. They might not understand it. They might not be able to explain it. But the moment they hear something, they want to ask questions. They want to know more. And it is very necessary that when your child comes to ask you, you should be able to give an age-appropriate answer. 6 years old is quite a young child, but we hear sex, sex, sex everywhere. That reminds me, I remember some time ago when I was much younger, maybe 11 or 12, I just entered secondary school. So I don't know what my cousin and my dad, they were discussing outside. We were all seated outside, and he said something like condom. And the next thing I asked was, what is condom? They all froze, and nobody answered me. I still remember clearly, now that I'm talking about this discussion, I still remember very vividly that day. And they all froze, and I was like, did I do something wrong? And that ended the discussion. In fact, the whole thing they were saying, that they ended there. But that shouldn't be the case. Even if you don't tell your child, somebody will tell the child. So let's get back to it. When a 6 years old asks, what is sex? The answer is simple. You don't have to go too deep. You can ask the child, how much do you know about sex? Or where did you hear the word from? And the child will tell you. So try to find out a little, if how far he has known about it. And I believe the child will tell you, oh, I heard it in this place, my auntie talked about it, I heard it from mom, I heard it from dad. The child will definitely tell you. So at that point, you would be able to determine how much information the child has. You could actually, if the child doesn't have much information, you could actually say sex has to do with gender, either a male or a female. So when we talk about sex, we're talking about a boy or a girl. Furthermore, you can actually go further, and you could go further by saying sex is something that adults do in private when they are in love or they are planning to have babies. So it's something, and your focus should be in love. Your focus should be on respect. Your focus should be on private. And while doing this conversation, take time to observe this child. Look at the body movement. Look at the response. Do less of talking and allow the child to do more of the asking. Your work is more like a dictative. As much as you're asking questions, you are observing, and give them the room to ask as many questions as possible. If you go to a doctor to maybe you're having a health challenge and you go to a doctor. Many a times, in fact, you don't just go to a doctor's office and he tells you, okay, go and take paracetamol, go and take. No, he doesn't do that. He takes his time to find out what the challenge is. And that's what we call diagnosis. It takes his time to know what the challenge is. Then after, he makes his prescription. So that's what is expected of us as parents. We do less of the talking and more of the listening to these kids, because they might have a lot stocked in them. And you know, some children are very, very, very inquisitive. Just you're saying it's something private, just between adults that are in love or that want to make babies, they might want to ask for that. And I wrote some questions that some kids might want to ask. It will help us to be able to answer such questions. The first question I have here is, why do grown-ups do sex? Why do grown-ups do sex? Grown-ups do sex because they are grown-ups, like it sounds. They are adults. So sex are not for children. Sex are actually for grown-ups, and it is done in private. Grown-ups that are in love, grown-ups that have sense on what to do, grown-ups that want to have babies. Do you want to have baby now? And the child will smile. I don't know. I know, you know, that kind of a thing. But tell them that grown-ups have sex because they are in love. Number two, question a child can ask if the child wants to go further. But if the child doesn't ask any more further, please be calm and relax. You don't need to go deeper. You don't need to go deeper, because we're talking about age-appropriate discussion. I know some children are exposed to a lot of information, but you don't have to go too deep. As they grow up, they get to understand more. And this discussion doesn't have to be once off. It has to be as often as possible, so that as the child begins to mature, as the child begins to get exposed to more information, the more you begin to go deeper into the discussion. And I would always say, don't wait until you are in trouble before you start having this conversation with your children. No. Even from age 0, let them begin to have gender awareness. Let them begin to have awareness about their body. This is a private part. This is for me. It's not for uncle, it's not for daddy. Let them know. The second question I have here that a child can ask is, how does babies get into mommy's belly? Babies get into mommy's belly as a result of mommy bringing eggs and daddy bringing sperm, or a tiny part of mommy. If maybe they want to ask you so many questions about egg and sperm, you can actually say a tiny part of mommy coming together with a tiny part of daddy, and inside a small part of mommy's body, and the small tiny baby starts growing in. I'm not God. God alone can explain how the baby grows in the tummy, and before you know, a baby is born. Number 3, people, what if they have sex and they don't want babies? 2 people that have sex and don't want baby, it's because they are in love, number 1. Number 2, it's because they are adults. And lay emphasis on the fact that it is adults that do this. It is adults that usually have sex. Let it ring in their hearts that they are still growing, they are not yet adults. And emphasize that sex is not for babies. Sex is for grown-ups, for adults, for mommies and daddies, for only adults. So when you emphasize on this, the child gets to know, it sinks in the brain that I am still small. It is not for me. I have another question here. Can kids have sex? Already we've said it. No, kids cannot have sex. Because a child can say, Mommy, why? Because you are still growing. You are not yet grown enough to have sex. Sex is strictly for adults and it is private. Simple and short. You don't have to make it complex. Your questions, your answers should be as honest as possible and clear enough for a child to be able to accept. I still have another question. They can ask a question, why do people have sex in secret? People have sex in secret because sex is private. It's not something that is done openly. It is something that is done quietly or in secret. Just like you taking your bath. You take your bath in the bathroom. You change your clothes in your closet. And it's the same thing with it. Everything is done in the closet. And in the same way, if somebody comes to you and tell you, okay, let's go to the room, and the person starts touching your body or telling you about sex and making you feel uncomfortable with it, report to any available adults. Did you hear what I just said? You must tell the child that. You must tell the child that. Once somebody comes to you and tell you about sex or touches your body or wants to touch you and tell you not to tell anybody, run away and go and report to mommy, daddy, or an adult. Very important. What are you doing? You are creating that awareness such that even if it's a 3-year-old child, the child is fully informed about what's inappropriate touch or approach, sexual approach would mean. And because you have been able to teach the child what the body parts are, the private parts are, they know these parts are for me. This is for me. This is for me. It's not for uncle. It's not for auntie. It's not for mommy. It's not even for mommy. It's not even for daddy. Yes, let them know that, except on special occasions. And once you make them understand that, you are already creating an awareness in the child, such that even when the child is faced with a thing like that, when an adult wants to bring this same kind of subject, or even a child brings this same kind of subject, the child knows that this is a subject for adults. This is a subject for adults. And the last question I'm going to be dealing with here is, children can be very funny. They can ask all manner of questions. Can I see what sex looks like? No, you can't see what sex looks like. Sex is exclusively for adults. And since it is something that is private, it is not something that should be shown to the public. So it is only when you are indulged in it, you are part of it, that you can see what it looks like. But for the public, it is not something that is being exposed to the public. So you can't see what sex looks like. Your work now, or your responsibility now, is to study your books. Pay attention to your books. Pay attention to other things that are relevant to you, like your plays and all those things. Those things are more relevant to you. When you are grown enough, you're going to understand more about sex. I hope this got to us. Parents, there are lots of resources out there for you to go through. Don't keep yourself in the dark. Knowledge is power. You are not warring against your child, you are warring against the world. And this battle is the battle of knowledge. So you need knowledge. In case you need any kind of help with regards to parenting counseling, so you can reach out to me. Our contacts will be written underneath this video in the comment section. You can reach out to me. In addition, I am creating a 7-in-1 bundle workbook that will help us even through this journey. So stay tuned as I get the full details on the 7-in-1 bundle. I know one has to talk about, it talks about the discussion, how to start a conversation of sex, different kind of questions you can ask your teenager to start the discussion. Yes, I think one talks about that. Another one talks about body parts, how to start a conversation about body parts. Another one talks about the screen guard, how to guide your children on the screen usage. Tomorrow we are going to be entering another aspect of this same discussion. Keep up with me. It's going to be a 10 days sex education series. So I'm your host again, Rukevwe Okoh. Have you liked this video? Please like the video, share the video, comment, ask your questions. I'm in the comment section waiting to give you a response. Bye.